Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the second week of XicanIndie 23. My name is Molly Gallegos, and this is our final event, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to talk to the filmmakers of Bride Plus One. But first, I want to thank our XicanIndie collaborators, Cuvo 89.3 FM, Rocky Mountain PBS, the Consulate General of Mexico, and Media Arts Santa Ana. I want to remind you about our summer internship. If you have a high school student or if you are a high school student who's interested in a fast-paced yet fun and eventful summer experience, look no further than Su Teatro's summer internship. Applications are open now until April 18th. Don't miss out. I am going to now pass it over to Felicia Gallegos Perez. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I have one more programming note. I wanted you to give you some information so you could save the date. Do you love homemade tortillas fresh off the comal? Do you wish you knew how to make them? Well, now's your chance because Su Teatro's Culture Preservation Series will present a flour tortilla making class from the comfort of your own cocina. And that will be Sunday, May 16th at 11 a.m. Details are forthcoming, but you will be able to sign up for this programming at our website at www.suteatro.org. We are so excited to also kick off our 7th ever WordFest and Artists of Color Summit. Today, we hosted guests from Media Arts Santa Ana for a Film Producers Academy, and we'll be having more programming for our 7th ever WordFest and Artists of Color Summit as the days go on. So keep checking back to suteatro.org for more information on what's coming up there. And so now I want to switch over and thank our guests for joining us this evening. As Molly mentioned, we have Christina Morales Hemenway, as well as Yelyna De Leon, writer and director and actor from their cast, joining us for Bride Plus One for this hilarious movie. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to hand it over to our executive artistic director, Anthony J. Garcia, who will be facilitating this conversation. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor. I saw the film today, and I was literally looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. We today opened up. We kind of finished. This is the last event for the film festival, but April is our festival month. So we do the Word Fest, which is everything dedicated to the word. So we do play readings, and we'll do poetry, and we'll even do art, visual art stuff, because I can figure out a way of connecting that up to the spoken word. But anyways, we'll figure that out. But today we started off with the filmmakers training kind of a thing, and it was a good transition. We started what we called the Artists of Color Summit because we felt that we needed to be able to talk about things that are important to us within our own environment. So filmmaking is one of those things at the core, but we've also explored conversations about how to set up your nonprofit, how to run an arts organization, how to get your own facility. Space is such a premium here in Denver now that all this transition is taking place. And Su Teatro has been fortunate in that we own our own facility, and we've had years of kind of building all of those things together. So those are conversations that we had long before people started talking about DEI. We've been talking about our community. So anyway, I just wanted to offer that. And I think this is such a great transition because today the training was really about, if you want to do a film, get up off your nalgas and go do a film. And Christina, I have to say, that you are such an incredible example of somebody who, my mom used to tell me that we come from a long line. When they told us we couldn't do something, she says, well, we come from a long line of people who don't know better. And because the reality is, if we knew better, we would probably do something different, right? And so I always think about that, and as part of Su Teatro's history, but also that was what we were hearing today. And then what we see is you as an example of that. Talk to me about this. You do everything, and it's not the first film that you've done everything in.
Right. I should have known better.
We just don't know any better. We don't know what we're not supposed to do.
I should have, because I told my friends and family. I've done this one other time where I wrote, directed, produced, starred in. It was my very, very first film. And I told my friends and family, do not ever let me do this again. But because I wasn't planning on playing the lead role, but it was about 2 months prior to filming, and the girlfriend that I wanted to do the lead was going out for her PhD, and she said, I just can't do it. So I decided to step in, and yeah, it's a crazy process to be in front of the camera and behind the camera. If I had to choose, I'd probably just be behind the camera, but it was also just a lovely process. It was fantastic building the family that I got to build. You know, it was so amazing the first day of shooting, having everyone show up, and these characters that I wrote like came to life and became a family on screen, and that was just a really magical time for me.
Yelyna, I really enjoyed your character in there. There was so many cool things that you did. Like I said, there's your moments when you start taking off your earrings figuratively, and it's clearly one of those things where you go, that's my family. That's how my family kind of exists. How did you talk to me a little bit about shaping that and how it came together when you first read it, and then how it came together as you were as you went in front of a camera?
Hello.
And I also like the black panties at the very end. I thought that was a really interesting thing that you guys did. That's a really interesting detail.
You mean that shot when he carries me? Is
Yeah.
that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
I
I
lost
was
you for a
like, okay,
second.
they did that. They had to have done that on purpose.
Well, because
to
we
this day, I'm
wanted
still
to
mad at the
make
DP
sure.
because I told him, make sure you don't get anything that I wouldn't want to see on screen. And sure enough, he got the shot, and he was like, "Well, I didn't choose to put it in there." I said, "No, but you chose to get it." So I was
Well,
doing
you
my
also
own
chose
stunts,
to
you know.
wear
I
them.
had to Tom Cruise it. I was like, well, they were bloomers, okay? Hello, like I know better. I know better. That skirt was. Remember that dress? That was actually Paloma's dress. Paloma lent me her dress. She's got like an amazing, incredible body. And I'm like, I don't know if I can fit in this. When I looked at it, it was like so little. And I was like, I don't know if my curves fit in this, but let's see. And sure enough, I ended up wearing it, but it was so short. And I was like, okay, I better get my bloomers for this. And luckily I had some. Pero de todos modos, pues ahí se vio lo que se ve, you know? I was in character. I was keeping it real. I love comedy. Thank God it's a comedy, you know?
Well, no, I think, but it also, what I think is on the other end of the film too is that, I mean, I read that it was a romantic comedy, but I think there's just a lot of poignance in that, in the looks that you guys put on, the body imaging pieces, the message that you're putting out there is really very, very strong, and I think it's powerful, and it's empowering, and it underlines the basic conversation in the film about is a woman only validated when she gets married to a man? Is it marriage only validates you? Is it a man's approval that does that? And I think your character, although you're the support character, you reinforce that, even though I don't know that you do it as forcefully, but it's there. It's all about a part of you. I don't see in any place in this course of the film where you are. And even in the end, when we find out about your relationship with your husband, you are not defining yourself by what he wants. You say, I know what he wants and I give it to him, or something along those lines.
Yes.
Know what he wants. Yeah.
But what do I want? And I think that was a really important message. I just remember reading the script and just saying, wow, like she's saying everything that I personally have thought for such a long time. And it was just such a beautiful thing to be part of this film, because I'm like, wow, someone's saying, like, speaking for us, usually I don't get scripts. I mean, I read a lot of scripts, but I usually don't get them coming my way with such a profound impact on me. And I just remember I was laughing, I was crying, but more than anything, I felt really empowered. And I was like, yes, what do I have to do to be a part of this film? Like, let's do it.
You're making me cry right now.
And I love this character. I mean, I love comedy. And as a Chicana, I'll be honest with you, there are not that many roles out there. So when I saw this one, I was like, oh, I have to do this. So yes, I will show my bloomers if I have to. I don't care. No me importa, because I was just being real.
We felt so lucky to get her. When I was doing the casting, my son, my 14-year-old now son, said, "Mom, if you get her, you got a movie. You got a movie."
Well, thank you to him, my casting director.
And to speak to your point about the aging process and also the self-image part, part of that was myself having to come to terms with putting myself on camera, because I hadn't intended to do that. And so I went, okay, well, I, as a writer, director, producer, have the opportunity to put an average sized Latina in front of the screen, as the leading actress, but she just happens to be me. That's kind of a problem for me, right? Because I'm all for, beautiful sizes, and I can say this, that I love all different sizes of women, and I think it's all beautiful. But when it comes to myself, I really have to get over myself, right? So I had to watch it one time through when I was directing. I had to look at the playback, criticize myself, get that all out of the way, and then look at it for the piece. So the body image stuff was really stuff that I added to it because of my own insecurities about my body. Originally, the actress that I had, in mind is a very thin actress who's been on a lot of television shows, so she's camera weight. So that was a really kind of big thing that I had to get over. I had to get over myself in order to be in front of the camera.
I'm as a writer and a director myself. When I'm on, and I don't mind being in front of people and doing things. I play music I sing. Felicia has a gorgeous voice, and we get to sing together and stuff. And that doesn't. The issue I always find is watching myself. I cannot stop watching myself when I'm in that. And I just remember being on stage one time and people didn't turn off a light upstairs, in the place up the theater, and that obsessed me through the whole production. And it was like I can't be in that position again, where I should be watching all these other things instead of watching what I was doing on stage. So I can identify with the difficulty of doing this. Is that your primary background, is behind the camera rather than in front of the camera?
Well, I started out as an actress. I went to CalArts, and then I realized I didn't enjoy acting as much as the writing and directing. So now I will be in front of the camera if the role calls for it, but I prefer the writing and the directing.
Is that the Mandona influence, right? Because for me, that's what it is.
Is it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like it's much better if I'm controlling it than if I'm not.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I felt kind of like a pawn when I was finally acting. I started out in theater, and that felt very rich for me because in a theater, you're doing a whole play, so you get to really get into character. And for me, once I started doing film acting, it was so short. And it was just this in and out process. And I felt like, okay, the director was saying, well, turn your head here and look like that. And I just felt like a pawn. For me, I didn't feel like there was much creativity in the process. And that's why I really try as a director to give my actors space. So, we usually do it one time where we get the lines as I wrote them. And then I say, okay, let's play. Yelyna, I think, was very good at playing.
Well, thank you. To add on to that, I mean, you wrote incredible characters. So that was the thing that she really gave us the freedom. Like she said, we did it, okay, exactly how it is in the script. And then it was like, okay, well, let's play and let's see, let's explore, which is very refreshing because usually, especially if you're doing TV, you have to say whatever the lines are, that's exactly what you're saying. I will say that Christina is an awesome boss, and I love being directed by a mandona, by a mujer. But I do want you to share, Christina. I think it's really important for you to share your story about how we were working in Ann Arbor, because I flew to Ann Arbor. So we shot some of the film in Los Angeles, and then some of the stuff was shot later on in Ann Arbor. So it was the first time I've been in Michigan, even though I'm from Chicago. I loved going over there. And there was a crew member, you don't have to say who, but it was really interesting because they did not know or think that you were the director. And I think that that's a really important story to share, because now it's like it's time to normalize that mujeres are mandonas and our bosses and are directing and are writing and are producers. And I think that that's really important for people to know about how that keeps happening.
Yeah. So there was a person that I was saying I needed to, I said, make sure you back it up, back up the sound every night, da 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 da. And he was like, yeah. And then I was like, okay, where are the files? And he's like, well, the guy behind the camera said I didn't need to do that. And I'm like, and the guy behind the camera is? And he's like, well, that's the director, right? And I'm like, how many other actresses do you know that boss people around like I've been bossing everybody around? I'm the director. I'm also the producer. I'm the person that signs the checks for your pay. So back it up. So there have been several times throughout the shoot where and also in the post-production process that the happened to be males that I was working with couldn't quite process that I was doing it all on my own. In the post process, they were like, okay, go and have your guys do such and such. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And they're like, okay, so when you do that, make sure that your guys do da 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 da. They just couldn't get that I was editing it and I was doing the post sound and da, da, da. Although I had many other post sound people on too, but the final say was mine, and they couldn't quite fathom that. Now, that's not to say that everybody was like that. You know, my DP was really wonderful to work with, and he never gave me caca about being the boss.
Over the years, I will offer it in terms of being a brown male here, is that I've gotten offered the keys to the janitor's closet when I've gone in to have a meeting. I've had contractors kind of just go to the first, we used to always say, find the first white guy available. And I've had to, and my staff has been part of the process too at times, where we've had to sit down with people and say, you know what, we're running this, and that's just the way it's going to be. So I can definitely identify with that. I was going to do a couple of things. So I wanted to have a follow up with you, Yelyna, and then I wanted to just, Molly, just maybe after that you might have something you'd like to jump in with. But Yelyna, so you're talking about the improvisational process and working with Christina as a director and stuff. How much trust do you have to give to that process? For now, I'm out there, she's going to let me do all this stuff, and am I going to, you have to earn that trust and you have to give that trust, right? You become vulnerable in that position, don't you?
Yes, especially when the lead actress is also the director. So that's the thing, is like to know like that you have that trust, and no matter what you say and what you do, like I'm in character, So once I'm on set, like I'm a character actor, that I am that person, and I really enjoyed being able to stay in character, because Christina knows me personally. We've spent a lot of time together, so she knows me professionally and personally. But on set, when I'm Brita, I'm Brita. And it's funny because we even changed our cell phones, the names on our cell phones. So every time I go to call her, I'm like, where's her? Oh, I forgot, because I don't have her down as, I have her down as her character name. I don't even have her down as Christina. And same thing with her. When she calls me, it's Brita. So that really helped. But it does definitely take, having 100% trust.
I was really grateful for that trust too. Is she frozen right now?
It looks like it.
Okay. I can just speak a little to that.
Keep going. Yes.
That with her, it was built like that. We just gelled right away. it was like Lucy and Ethel kind of from the beginning. And I felt so grateful to build a friendship with her afterwards because, you know, I didn't know her before that, but I felt like the moment I met her, like she's one of my besties already.
So
We
Yelyna, I'm sorry.
froze for a little bit. So I'm not, do you guys remember where she was and what part of the sentence she was at?
No, but she can pick. I'm sure Yelyna can pick it up. You were talking about the trust.
Oh yeah, no, it's just, it's, as an actor, you have to trust yourself, and you have to trust the whole team, and just say, you know what, if they told me I could have fun, then I'm going to have fun, within the story, obviously, you know, and staying in character. But it's very refreshing because it doesn't happen a lot. And I will say, because I have taken improv classes, and I've done sketch comedy, and I've done all kinds of awesome training, I was ready to do that. I've also worked with some actors. They don't like to improv. They don't like to, they're like, I'm going to stick to the script and that's it. So that was a really awesome process for me. And I would highly recommend anybody, who hasn't taken an improv class to do so, because it really does help you stay in character. Also, I had a lot of theater training, which really helped me as well, because, when you're doing a play, there is no cut, right? You're there for the whole hour and a half, and you're in character, whether you have a line or not. So that really helped me in this process. And, we were working fast, and, an independent film, it's just like everybody's giving their 3,000%. And as you can tell, it shows, because there's a lot of heart in this. And that's something that, it really felt like a familia on set. I will say that. And, we build a rapport. We spend a lot of time. I love going to Ann Arbor and meeting, Christina's family. And I don't know that would happen on a non, Latino set. I don't know, because I'm just going based on my own personal experiences, where you actually get that time to, meet the familia and build that rapport. So I will say that it was a very special film for me.
Christina, did you want to say something?
Not about that in particular. I was just kind of reading some of the comments on the side note. I don't know if we were going to segue.
Yeah, Felicia will segue to him in a second.
Okay.
But I wanted to, if we're good, I would like to bring Molly into the conversation, because Molly obviously picked the film and felt there was something she wanted to share with our audiences here.
Thank you, Molly.
Yeah, I wanted to I thought what I found so wonderful about your film was how relatable it was. There's been so many times where I feel like most women are like, oh, it's just never going to happen for me. Whatever, I'll just do it, and then that sort of inner fighting of like, but do I need to be married? But I want to. And yeah, all of that was just, even down to the way that you dressed your character, I felt was so relatable. Like, there's always so much pressure to try and be like this, especially like fit into the stereotype, like sexy Latina and all of that. And the fact that you wore like that nightgown to bed, I was like, oh yeah, that's amazing. Like, it just was, not to say like it's ugly or anything, but just like validating. Like, I don't want to be something else. Like, I loved it. And I wanted to, I guess part of me wanted to ask, like, where did you get the ideas for all those terrible dates? But I feel like terrible dates. I recognized a lot of ex-boyfriends in your.
Have you done online dating? This is just a general question for everybody.
Yeah. So yes, I got separated about 6 years ago, and so I went online and tried the online dating thing, and didn't work very well, but it gave me good material. Yeah.
The
other thing I wanted to share, if it's okay, was kind of the sponda for the material, the way I came up with the concept, because I feel like that's an important part of the process. Was two of my girlfriends around the same time were dumped by guys that said that they wanted children, and then when it turned out at the end they didn't. So by this time my girlfriends were in their 40s, so they had been in like relationships for about 4 years, and then when they were about 40, their boyfriends dumped them and said, oh, by the way, I don't want kids. And I was so angry about that because I have children. And I feel like I was more angry than they were because I felt like I know what they're missing out on. And these women would be such great mothers and da da da. So that's how I started the idea for the story. That's how I kind of channeled my anger about that into the story. And then, as you know, like tragedy becomes comedy if you push it too far. So just pushed it a little farther.
Tragedy plus time.
Yes. Tragedy plus time. Yeah.
The one I like actually by Chaplin is that tragedy is when something bad happens to you. Comedy is when something bad happens to somebody else. So Felicia, do you have some great comments in here? Why don't we go ahead and go over to that?
Yes, I have two from Ted. Ted Wolverton, very consistent and engaged supporter of Su Teatro. He says, the wedding day scene compares with the classic pie fights in Hollywood. Your story is a lovely take on a serious theme. Nicely done. And starting the film festival with La Tiricia and ended with Bride Plus One. Again, both address a similar serious theme, one a tragedy and one a comedy. Thank you for the XicanIndie Film Fest.
Aww.
And we have a comment also from Karen Trujillo Gonzalez. My screen just moved. There we go. I loved the film. It even made me have a funny, wild dream. I wish it was a series like Jane the Virgin.
Aww.
And
yay.
We have a lot of Jane the Virgin, I guess might be like cult supporters in our group around here. It's very
That's awesome.
I'm I'm just now watching Jane the Virgin. So I'm noticing some of the similarities and, people are like, oh, it reminds me of, but I'm just now watching it. So I can enjoy it.
I want to say hi to Ted, and I want to ask Ted if he would believe me if I told him that one fight scene was done in one take. I just want to know.
What I liked about it was the twist in that I was expecting the bride to back out of it. I knew the wedding. I didn't feel the wedding was going to take place, but when it's the groom that backs out of it, that was a surprise for me, and I did appreciate that twist. That twist there. And just to Jane the Virgin.
I hope everybody on the thing has seen the movie. So I hope, Tony, don't give it away any spoilers. Just
we suggest to them that they see the movie before they get into the Platica. And if they don't, then, come on. It's not like Jesus dies at the end of the Easter movie. You know that. We still watch them,
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought. We can go back. Felicia Jane the Virgin. So my daughter, Mika, who's out there floating around, loves Jane the Virgin, and she used to watch all the time. It used to drive me crazy at the house. I never watched it. It just was on all the time. And then my partner and I, we started watching because of the COVID. We would get together on Friday nights and watch Netflix stuff, and that started coming up, and she got addicted to it. And so over a very short amount of time, I was catching up on season after season. And I think my daughter thought it was very, very funny that now we could have a conversation about Jane the Virgin where I caught up later. So anyway, I just wanted to share my Jane the Virgin experience.
That's beautiful.
I haven't seen them all. After a while, it got a little bit too deep on the dive for me, but I was there for a while. Felicia, did you want to keep reading?
Yes,
I also wanted to chime in on the fight scene, if that's okay. My background is with Marcel Marceau, so it's interesting to me that he was talking about the old Hollywood fight scenes. So I kind of take a little from the past with that, and so I really appreciate that he saw that, and then also with some of my stage combat background. So the way we did that is I basically said, okay, I want this from this to happen, and then this to this to happen, and this to this, and then the DP just let it roll. And I was really amazed that we got it in one shot. I was flabbergasted.
One shot.
The DP got a big old kiss from me after that. He was very surprised. He's not Latino, so he was like, what are you doing kissing me?
And my fight training is from the south side of Chicago. I was just like, all right, let me go at it. 'Cause she was like, go ahead, let it loose. And I was like, all right, let's go, let's do this. And it's interesting because I look back on some of the shows that I've been on. I'm like, man, siempre me ponen de peleonera. I'm like, why? I'm the nicest person ever. But yeah, don't mess with me because
Hey, when you're good at it, you're good at it, right?
what's that?
You know, so there are certain actors that no matter what they're in, they will take focus to them. And that is what I read as a director. If I saw you in an audition, if I saw you read, I would go, no matter what this play is about or this story is about,
It'll be about
you.
people.
It's gonna be more, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because you find different things about the story that you might not have seen before. Always we have some of those actors within our company, and you go, I thought this was a small part, but you know what? It's actually a bigger part because people rise, talent rises.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just try to be as authentic as I can. And like I said, just being a character actor, I just love bringing, roles like this to life because they do not come by my desk that often. And it's very unfortunate, but it's slowly starting to change with people like Christina, and hopefully all the writers in your teatro are doing that, where they're writing great roles for people like myself. Because it's what we need. We need awesome roles like this so that we can shine.
Excellent. Felicia, would you like to continue?
Yes. Well, we did have a two-part question from Daniel Jenkins. He says, what group of viewers support or give you feedback or their feedback surprised you the most that you have received about the film? And what theme or message do you think would have been left out if your film was made by a large film studio?
Interesting. That's a great question. So the group of viewers that I've been the most surprised about are the men. I thought, okay, this is, target demographic 30s to 40s Latinas. And I remember there was a man after the SAG screening came up to me and he was like, I cried in this movie. And I was like, you did? Why? What happened? And then there have been other men that have said, I need to get it so I can just pause it during that one rant that you do about men so that I can learn something, so that I can just take notes from this. There was another man that said, because of this movie, I'm going to be nicer to my wife. And those kinds of things, that's amazing to me. That's totally a very happy, welcome, unexpected thing to hear. Oh,
Yeah.
and the second part of the question was, what theme do I feel like would be left out? Well, I'm guessing they probably would have put a more fit, thinner person in the lead.
Maybe not a Latina, maybe.
Yeah, they may have not even had a Latina. Yeah. And actually, when I started writing it, I wasn't thinking of doing a Latino ensemble piece. In my own family, my father's Venezuelan and Puerto Rican, and my mother was American. And so, I kind of was thinking more of a blended situation. But then I went, it's time. It's time to see more brown people in front of the camera and behind the camera. And if not now, when? So I'm really glad that we went in this direction.
Yelyna, did you want to answer any of that part of that question? You did a little bit, but talk about maybe a little bit about the feedback and some of the themes.
Yeah, I was surprised as well about the men, because I was there for some of those comments, and then just the feedback has been like, wow, I needed to see this from the men, because they don't really get to hear a woman's real perspective, because usually, you don't see movies like this out there. So I would say that, yeah, that was the most surprising was the men. And a lot of the guys that, my friends that saw the movie, they're like, oh, wow, I should change my dating profile because they all were guilty of having those pictures. They're like, I have a picture with, whatever it is, if they're out with a fish, I'm fishing, or the sky, what is it, the sun? They're like, I have all those. They're like, oh my God, maybe that's why I'm not getting any dates. I'm like, you think? So that was interesting.
You know what?
Feedback.
That actually came out of when on my own dating profile. I got so sick of seeing those things that I put like a disclaimer. I'm like, if you have this, and this, don't contact me. So that's what made it into the end movie.
Yeah.
Well, as the male in the conversation, I'd like to offer a couple of perspectives. One is that's what they took away from the movie, that I should change my dating profile. I think that's typical male of going, okay, what do I get out of it? What can I get out of it? Right. And just so you know, there is a disease that men get as they get older, that they cry much easier and over. I don't remember what it's called, but I'm not saying he wasn't sincerely crying, but as we get older, we cry over some very easy shit. But so that as you get into that point where you're hanging out with guys my age and they start crying, you can set them off pretty easily. So put that in your pocket. Maybe
that's good to know.
This guy was like 30, maybe something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, we get. So he said, "Do you want to keep going?"
Yes, I have one more comment from Christina Montoya, a longtime supporter of Su Teatro. She says, "Thanks, Su Teatro, for bringing new work and different artists to the community." So welcome into our community.
Christina is a writer, and she's just published her first book, and she is also retired from the Denver Sheriff's Department.
Wow. Fantastic. Congratulations, Christina.
And has been a longtime supporter. Her son, Eli, is one of the best musicians around town. Very much connected to our community. And Daniel is one of my students. I teach a Latinos in Film class at Metropolitan State University. And so they're required to ask intelligent questions, and that's why he did. I said, don't embarrass me, you guys. I did have another comment that I wanted to talk about. One of my favorite parts of the piece was the subtextual subtitles. When you have you're really interpreting what the body language is and what the other stuff is. That's great. I hadn't seen that. I thought that was very innovative, and it also speaks to one of the things we struggle with as males is that women have so many subtextual conversations that we are completely oblivious to. And we got a lot of head shaking going. Is that correct, or was I just making up shit?
Yeah, I think there was a study done, and men could see like 12 different facial expressions, and women could see like 72. So there is a difference, but I wanted to right away when we first introduced Jotham, I wanted to show that he spoke her language, that there was a kinship there that was important, that he knew her, that made it different than all the other men, that he really got her. He knew even when she was blubbering what she was really saying.
No, I thought that was really. There's really profound. There's a reason we have conversations with you a lot, and we go, what, because we so much that. Felicia.
The other thing.
Go ahead. Do you want to say something, Felicia? I've never seen you react this much as you've been on the sidelines. Can you join in with what's going on with you?
I'm coming up on my 20th anniversary of being married, and there's a whole lot of this that is just. Well, at least my husband and I can laugh about it right now. But yeah, there's so many stories in the back of my mind when you bring up all of these things. It would take up another 30 minutes.
The other thing I would like to bring into the conversation is the mother-daughter connection. If that's
what a wonderful actress!
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was
Paloma Morales.
Yeah. Paloma was such a gift. Such
a Abuela too.
Amazing connection. I mean, the fact that she had the same last name as me, she just fit right in. And my mother had dark hair and blue eyes, and just like her. And so when I saw her, I was amazed. And, unfortunately, my mom passed away during the shooting of this. So we had to take a hiatus and then come back to shoot because, for a long time I couldn't find anything funny. So, that was a whole process. But to me, looking back, it's so precious to me that the character that I wrote with my mother in mind now lives on. That my mom is gone, but the character lives on. And it was an alchemical kind of process. I felt like when she died, her spirit was downloading in me. And in the same way, the voice of the author is really Paloma. Her character really is the author's voice in the movie. She's the one that is saying, hey, you have your whole life to fall in love. You only have 2 years of baby making time left. So that was a very, very important part of the process for me. Working with Paloma and just having that tragedy in my life simultaneously happening and creating comedy from it. That was, of course, why I dedicated the film to my mom. But, I'm hoping for Mother's Day that people will see this film, because I feel like that's a very important thread through the film, is the mother-daughter relationship.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the process of actually doing, you did everything, but where your training as a filmmaker? You talked about your training as an actor, but in terms of being on the other side of the camera, raising money, all that kind of stuff, it just sounds completely overwhelming.
It is really challenging, but it's like parenting, it's the hardest job you'll ever love, right? So I just feel like I have stories that I need to tell, and so I'll do whatever it takes to tell those stories. So I went to Cal Arts, and I would sneak into film courses here and there. So I had a performance degree, but I would sneak into film courses, and then upon graduating, I just announced to everyone that I knew, I'm going to make a feature film. Anybody who wants to come on board, please do. And it was not the best film I've ever made, but I cut my teeth on it. I just did it. I just got out there and I learned by doing. And so now I've been doing for 20 something years. So, just the school of hard knocks, just doing it over and over again. The raising of money is probably the most challenging part for me. With this film, it was a combination of a private silent partner who had been on board with a couple of my other films. So he already had some trust in me. And so he would match funds, the crowdfunding. I also had friends of mine offer services that other friends would auction. We would auction services, so other friends would buy those services. There's so many things that go into the fundraising process. And I find that is the most difficult part. And then of course, just getting it out to the public, that I find that challenging too. So if I could just write and direct, that would make me very happy. That would feel so easy. Like for somebody else, that might feel really hard. For me, I'm like, I only have to do those two things? Great.
Well, as for somebody who does it and actually has a theater who does it, I will tell you that when you raise the money and you control the money, and you actually controls how much artistic direct breath you have that you can do. So it's kind of connected to the two. I was going to ask you about, so is your background in Michigan? Is that, why did you shoot in Michigan? Because you had all these brown people right around you in LA.
Right. So I am from Michigan, and I was living in Michigan, and there are not enough brown people here that act, that I knew of. So I knew that I needed to go to LA. So I lived in LA for about 20 years, and now I go back and forth. So my family is here in Michigan. So that's where I am right now. So we did most of the exteriors and the larger ensemble cast pieces out in Los Angeles, and then the interiors here.
Well, I think one of the byproducts of that is you're telling the rest of the world that there are brown people in Michigan that people might not know that or might not really respect it. I mean, Colorado has this really interesting kind of thing in that we're, for people who live on the eastern coast, the eastern part of the state, they believe they're in the Midwest, they're in the plains. People who live on the western slope, on the other side of the mountains, they think they're part of the West. And for those of us who are brown and live in the southern part, we think we're more part of the South, Mexico, more part of that kind of influence. So we have those dynamics, and so we kind of are attached to the Midwest, but we don't necessarily completely see ourselves as that, and seeing that we have such a rich history in states like Michigan and Illinois. People came up to work in the packing houses in Chicago, slaughterhouses in Chicago. We know
That's
that.
where my grandfather worked. He was a bracero, and he ended up working there at the slaughterhouse in the back of the yards. So, sí, así es.
We're doing a project. I'm sure some of you might know Daniel Valdez is Luis's brother. Danny's a musician. Mm-hmm. It was in Zoot Suit, and so Danny and I are working on a project about the packing houses. And in 2007, ICE pulled a raid on all the packing, like in about 7 different packing houses across the country, on the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Oh,
why the hell did they do that, right? And then comparing it to the high number of deaths that took place in COVID. So we're going to go back into some of those areas and gather those stories and put them in music and so on and stuff. I just wanted to share that real quickly. But I'm getting to you being in Denver and being part of the XicanIndie a few years back, and how great that was. And then that you have the film that you screened here is actually going to be seen in different parts of the country and is playing in Denver right now. Did we lose you, Yelyna?
I'll start off and then
go for it. You're such a great team.
So yes. I saw the movie.
Am I frozen?
Murder in the Woods.
Me, like freezes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It's like an automatic. Every time me directly, it like freezes.
I know it's
Can you guys hear me?
It's my fault. I've learned over the years.
We can start to hear you now. Can you?
Am I back? Okay. I'm like, every time you speak directly to me, it's like frozen. Yes. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much, because you guys have always been great supporters. And yes, I was there 2018, so 3 years now, with Murder in the Woods, which is starring an all Latino cast, all brown people up on the screen. And so that was a lot of fun going to Denver. That was my first time there, but I just love how supportive the community there is. So thank you for having this project there now and supporting, because it's really important. It's so important for our community to see characters that look like them on the big screen. They look like us. You know, I didn't see that growing up. So when I did Murder in the Woods, that was my main goal, was like, okay, I want to make sure that it's all beautiful brown people up there on that screen. And we did premiere there 2018, and now Murder in the Woods is actually playing across the country. We're in drive-ins in California, Arizona, and in Loveland. So I don't know how far that is from you guys in Denver, but it's the Loveland Metropolitan. And you guys can go to murderinthewoodsmovie.com to see where it's playing. We're also streaming online right now. So it's a really great time right now, because I'm able to promote that movie and then also say, hey, I'm in Bride Plus One, which is also out on platforms, and hopefully will also be hitting the big screen so people can enjoy that, because these are feature films that are made to be enjoyed, you know, in the theaters. unless you have an awesome TV, which some people do. Pero el sonido a veces is not the same. So I would really just recommend, once it's safe to go back out there, if you see these movies, please come out and support, because it really does make the difference. These are independent films. There's no studio backing. So anytime that we can get the word out, even just by sharing on Facebook, if you follow our page, or Instagram, it really, really makes the world a difference for us to continue to keep making stories about us, by us, for us. Because, I've been out here in Hollywood for a minute, and there's not a lot of stuff. The studios, they think they know us, but they don't know us, and it's really going to take us as a community coming together to say, it's our time. We're the writers, we're the bosses, we're the directors, we're the stars. And it's really important for us to support our own projects. Es muy importante. Because sometimes, we don't have the big budgets like these movies. Right now, Murder in the Woods is up against Godzilla, and Mortal Kombat's coming out as well. I mean, think about the budgets for those movies just for marketing alone. It's like $15-20 million plus. That's just for marketing alone. So that's one thing that I will say is it's been a real struggle, is just getting the word out there. And luckily we have social media, and we have places like Su Teatro that are supporting, because I think it's just really important for people to know what's going on. And, a veces la gente don't find out until years later. It's so funny because I was also in another movie called A Better Life that came out in 2011, starring Demian Bichir, which is a beautiful story that I highly recommend if you guys haven't seen it. But when I ask people like, oh, have you seen A Better Life? It was nominated for Academy Award for Best Actor for Demian Bichir. And people go, no, I've never heard of it. And I'm like, really? Or they're like, oh yeah, but I haven't seen it, and I don't think that people really understand how important our opening weekend is and what those numbers are, because, that's what Hollywood cares about, is just seeing the numbers and knowing that the community is out there supporting us is really important. So, de veras, desde the bottom of my heart, con todo corazón, I just want to say mil gracias por tenernos aquí esta vez, la última vez, y hopefully la próxima vez, because I know we're going to continue to keep making our films. Okay, it's our time.
Yes. Yes.
For the record, I've seen Godzilla and I like your movie better.
Thank you.
Don't tell Demian. He did a film here, and we got to know each other before he went to do Zoot Suit in LA. So he's got the whole theater background, so that's how we connected. But don't tell him I liked your movie better. But I did. I did. So he's a wonderful man. He's a great guy. He's very, very giving, and he was always. We went there to see Zoot Suit, and we had lunch, and he was so gracious with our young theater actors, and buying lunch and visiting with them and stuff. But I still like your movie better.
Oh, yes.
And I also want to just put in a plug, because I can't stand horror films. I can't stand thrillers, but I loved her movie. And that's really rare for me. And, I wouldn't say it. I would have just gone, but I have to say, she's a great writer and producer, and amazing to work with. And I just wanted to say, please go and support this movie.
Thank you. Maybe it was a comedy. I made sure to put some comedy in there, porque yo estoy viendo las películas like this. Like I get really scared. Yeah. For comedy, I'm all about it. I'm like, yes, bring it on. So I made sure there was, that's why I chose the slasher, because you can put comedy in there. Yeah. And I feel like everybody could use a good laugh right now. So definitely, if you're not in a good place, watch Bride Plus One. You will laugh. That I can guarantee you. Even if it's at my expenses and Michoni's bloomers, but that's okay. That's all right. I'll take one for the team. It's okay.
My favorite my favorite quote was someone that said that they laughed so hard that they peed their pants.
There's an image. And just so you know that we call our short, we get a lot of short subject films that we do on Saturday, on the Saturday. So we had like about how many, 30 of them, 1 million of them, something like that. But we call them the chones, our chones section. So I thought you would appreciate.
Oh my God. Maybe I should make one and submit it, because I know you guys will screen it there.
Yeah.
You want to direct it, Christina?
Okay.
Well, also to think about that, we do a monthly screening. And we just got the numbers back from the state health regarding the COVID standards and stuff, and it looks like we should be able to start putting people back in the theater pretty soon. We're expecting to open in June, And so there could be that opportunity if you have that interest in maybe a screening someplace down the line, when we could actually and we don't have a huge screen. It's like 20 feet, but in a 250 seat theater.
Right.
And so, and a nice sound system that goes with it. So you were talking, and if it's just the two of you guys with some tacos and just kicking back with your shoes off, and that could be fun too, right?
Whatever brings me back to Denver, I'm in, because I really did have an awesome time there. That community there, our whole arts scene there was just like, oh my God, amazing. Y la comida, sí, I'm there.
And my brother lived there, so I could go visit my brother. Yeah, he lives in the Cherry Creek area.
One of the things that's happening here is that there's, because of the art scene, because of a lot of different things, there's like a tremendous population boom happening here. And there's a lot of good things that we like here, except we get a little paranoid that essentially there'll be just too many of us here. So we always like people to come and visit. And my daughter, Mika, would like to be the person who decides who gets to stay and who doesn't. But but Denver's there. There's a lot of, we're looking forward to all the fun and stuff. And the theater will be here. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary very soon.
Oh, congrats.
Here, and we'll have a lot of nice parties. And I think we'd love to have you be a part. Let me offer any last comments. Yelyna, that was very entertaining wrap up. I appreciated that. I've had a great time with you too. Just think if we were all in the same room, right? But I just wanted to offer any last comments or observations you wanted to share. I just wanted to say
thank you, that you guys do an amazing job, and I love what you're doing and just being out there for the culture in this way. I'm so glad that there are people fighting the good fight, and I just wanted to say thank you for having us.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. We did get into this to cause trouble. We all do remember that was our intent from the beginning.
And I will say, Chicanas do it better, okay? That's drop the mic. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Right. I agree. No disagreement here. So anyway, thank you all very much. Mika's giving 5 minutes. Meek, we're ready to wrap here. I'm going to send it back to Felicia. And then if you two would like to hang around a little bit after we go off there, we can decompress a little bit, and I'd be glad to share that with you. But Felicia, take us home.
Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. It's been a real treat to speak with you this evening. Thank you, all of our audience participation, for your questions, for your comments. We sincerely appreciate the interaction. Don't forget, the 7th ever Word Fest is starting, and we would like for you to stay with us for that programming. You can check out all of the updated information at www.suteatro.org. And don't forget to save the date for our virtual cooking class, May 16th at 11 a.m. for homemade flour tortillas. And that registration will be available at www.suteatro.org. And I'll hand it over to Molly to wrap it up. Thank you so much, ladies.
Just want to quickly remind you about our summer internship for your high school students. That application is due on Sunday, so don't waste time. You don't have any time. You got to go to www.suteatro.org, download the application, and turn it in. And then I want to thank our XicanIndie collaborators, Cuvo 89.3 FM. You could tune in Sundays at 4. That's a great time. Rocky Mountain PBS, the Consulate General of Mexico, and Media Arts Santa Ana. I want to thank our Platica participants for Bride Plus One, and I want to thank all of you for watching and making XicanIndie 23 one of my favorite XicanIndies. And remember, you still have one more day. We close down tomorrow, but you still got all of the rest of the night and all day tomorrow. So don't forget to watch all the rest of the movies. And thank you so much. Have a great night.